Talk about technology. We had this already in a couple of breakout sessions, but I would like to introduce a phenomenon that a colleague of mine, Jutta Rump from University of Ludwigshafen, has found out now just recently. And there is a new phenomenon that she calls the Zoom fatigue. So it's not specifically about Zoom, but all virtual tools that we are particularly using in virtual teams. And what you see that the majority, I mean, 86% of the people are saying that after a while, it's really, they have reduced concentration, patience is going down, they get annoyed, yeah, there is a lack of balance, they had headaches, yeah, they're really having back problems, eye problems. So and I think already knowing that we are not alone, everybody is sitting in the same boat, and that really we are not the same when we are having Zoom meetings. That is already the first thing. So what actually causes the stress when we use these digital tools? It is, for example, that we do not get the possibility to catch non-verbal signs of our team colleagues. Yeah, but it's also that the voice quality is sometimes really bad, the internet connection is bad, and that really also stresses a lot. But also that it's really difficult to small talk in the breaks, yeah, the coffee, breaks and the little small talks. That is what we are not doing anymore. We do not really grab the mimics or gestures and the body language of the other people. And so you can probably read it, those at least who are able to read in German, because that is a study that was conducted here in Germany. But I think that is what we all can grab out by now, all these digital, wonderful digital technologies that we are using, but that this is really a stress factor. But that's not the only thing. The second interesting thing I would like to share with you is that in virtual meetings, we human beings are not producing the hormone oxytocin. So what is oxytocin? That is the hormone that is built when we are getting together with other human beings, and that influences our human behavior. So it plays a role in social behavior and in stress regulation. And this is like a reward. So it's the so-called hormone of attachment, which creates the feeling of calmness and closeness. And now comes the thing, it's not produced when we human beings are meeting virtually. So that means our bodies are not producing oxytocin, and that means that we do not have emotional empathy and sensitivity. And that is, I think, a very, very important also a phenomenon that we now know from science in order to understand with all of us what is happening. And maybe you have already observed, because since I know this, I'm observing this in myself, that my level of empathy is really reduced. And now I'm working proactively to fight against it. But I think the first step is to know that there is a physiological effect, and it's not the same when we are meeting virtually in comparison to physically.
All right, now we're into conflict management. Basically, conflict is pre-programmed, we see in this environment. In GVTs, think about what's under the waterline is what we're showing here with the iceberg theory revised to GVTs. So we can see behavior on the top, right? That's something that we can observe what is being said, what people are doing, but the values Do we see what the values are? So it's something that we want to pay more attention to, especially in these GVT settings. And it has also something to do because it challenges our senses. So working virtually really means that we have to rely just on 2 of our 5 senses. So if we go on to the next slide, we can see that we're relying pretty much on what we see and what we hear. And yet, as Yvonne just pointed out, as humans, many of us get rich sensory input and actually emotional satisfaction when using the other senses. What are the other senses? Tasting, smelling, and touching. In Germany right now, cooking programs are skyrocketing. Everybody's talking about cooking. All right, so I can't get away from the people talking about cooking right now. But this makes sense. So something is lacking. So when we rely on just 2 of the 5 senses, we're actually very grateful for any insights we have about human behavior. And so a rule of thumb, I have a sales and business development background, in management and sales, is get as close as you can to the person when you're communicating. So what does that mean when we communicate in GVTs? As complexity increases, get personal. And so on the next slide, we see a nice visual representation of what that could mean, right? As we travel the continuum to high, starting out at low, we have emails, we have WhatsApp, we have chat. Is this context? Do we get contextual information from these mediums? No, not really, right? It's something sometimes done for expeditious purposes, right? That's why we use it. But as we travel this continuum, right, we eventually get to personal contact, which is now hindered by COVID-19. But that is our ultimate goal. And somewhere in between, we want to remember that we have telephone and FaceTime, right? And there are good reasons there why we want to try to limit our email and chat use when an issue becomes more complex. Think about personal contact, as close as you can get. In sales, you often close a deal on the phone. Of course, you have to do your homework. You do a lot of emailing and other things. But to close the deal, a lot of times, or high-level complex issues, who just met recently, von der Leyen and our friend Boris Johnson, they met in person, in COVID. Why? We know why, right? So they were trying to deal with complex issues, and personal contact is the best if we can get it.